Boom. Howdy. Ho ho, my good humans. How the hell are you doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I'm Brandon Sylvia. Appreciate y'all for tuning in to talk about reviews, the state of reviews in 2024, if they still matter, if they don't matter, all that good stuff. And here today to join me, I have Mr. Mondane in the building. How you doing, brother?
How you doing?
I'm pretty good, man.
Doing
And
pretty, yeah.
we also have Mr. Loon, Madden Looney in the building. How you doing, big dog?
Yeah, not too bad. Be good to get this fleshed out a little bit more, as we touched upon it in, I think it was the podcast, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I've kind of liked having that as a theme where we'll sort of talk about something for a minute, and then it's like, hey, I think there's more to pull at there, and then we dive into it a little bit more. So I really wanted to get you guys together to talk about this because I hear this sentiment all the time that reviews don't matter anymore. Reviews, they don't matter in 2024. You have Twitch streamers, this, that, and the other. And I don't know. I have a lot of different thoughts about it. And I just wanted to sort of get your guys' opinion on the state of reviews in 2024. Mondane, I'm gonna kick it over to you first, then we'll go to you, Loon, and just come back around, play this round robin style. So
Oh, goodness.
how are you feeling about the state of reviews in 2024? I'll just kind of let you take this as whichever way you want to take it, wherever the wind blows your brain. How are you feeling
Um,
about reviews in 2024? Do they still matter?
I I don't think they matter, but there's very specific reasons for it. A lot of the review places, they're not as famous as they used to be back in the day. Back in my day, um, just for the viewers that don't know, I grew up in the '80s, so you know things like Nintendo Power and like PlayStation Magazine and stuff like that. They got review copies like a month or two before the release, so they had time and they were prestigious enough to be given all of this stuff for free without having the company, review what they had written and stuff. There's no access journalism, no like, oh, you gave us a bad review, so we're not going to give you our next game. It's like, no, this is part of your advertising budget, and you better give out a game if you want people to even talk about it, kind of thing. And that kind of leads into my next point of like, with how fast information is going these days, it's almost not even about being right. It's about being first.
No, absolutely.
So whoever gets the first review out is the one who's going to get all of the money. They're going to draw all the dimes and stuff. That's where all of this review stuff has not evolved. It's devolved into this, and all like Kotaku and like all of these other sites and all, just site after site after site after site, and it's like they can't get it early enough. If they write a bad review, they're not getting it again. And they've got to be first. And then they have to also try to be at least somewhat accurate or be able to dash jump or something. um, and that's, I mean, like we've heaved a lot of problems their way. So it's a two-sided problem. I think it's a two-sided issue. I think people are so impatient that they want it now, that we've kind of driven them towards this. But the other thing is like all the NDAs and stuff, and all the people that play test the games, they're doing NDAs, and it's like, well, why can't these play testers who are playing like the game 2 or 3 months ahead of time link up with these outlets and write reviews as well? Well, they can't, because most of the time the NDA is so tied down that they can't even talk about the game until after it's already released. And it's like, seems like everyone's missing something here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those are really good points. And Loon, I think that the funny thing that he brought up that we were talking about, and you hit it on the head, Mondane, is the idea of back in the day, there used to be these 2 month windows that reviewers had to play a game, formulate their thoughts, get it out there to the public. And now, I mean, I've heard of stories of, a week or less for kind of big games. And
Mm.
it's just, how can you be at the top of the SEO? How can you get the most traffic to your site if you're going to delay your review and not get it out whenever the embargo lifts? Like, it's just not going to happen. And that's what you and I were talking about, Loom, whenever you were telling me about these different reviewers who do 100% deep dive reviews. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just kick it over to you there and let you expand on that, on how you feel about the state of reviews in 2024.
Mundane hit on the head with, you need to be first. And because you say you obviously grew up in the 80s, I remember in mine was early 2000s and stuff, getting these Xbox magazines, and they still supported these demo discs and stuff. So literally, I've seen it die. My generation was where they were phasing it out, and I remember, they were really well written as well, these reviews. They had to put thought into it and stand out. But the internet is a double-bladed sword. You can have any information at the tip of your fingertips, but a lot of the time it's either rushed or it's incorrect and stuff like that. And the big shift, and I can't remember the outlet that did this, but do you remember the controversy with that first Kane and Lynch game?
Yeah, GameSpot.
The person that was at GameSpot, they were being paid off by Square Enix or whatever it was to
Yeah.
say that you need to hit it. Don't give it absolute shit reviews. Try and paint it in as good as light. We know it's kind of crap, but say it's the next GTA and stuff like this, and use these buzzwords. And they were really pushing it because they were like, look, we make sure that we're tying it down mainly to you first. You'll be getting the copies first. We know how much that means to drive that traffic. And that's the big difference, is that maybe it did exist back then, but it didn't feel that way.
It actually did.
Yeah.
The point to that is Nintendo Power. They used to come out with Game of the Year and stuff, and Nintendo was famous for only nominating and only awarding this to in-house brands and stuff. I think it was the only time, I might be wrong, it might have happened once, or it might have happened twice or something, but the only year that Nintendo Power did not give, that I remember, that they did not give the Game of the Year award to a Nintendo-based game was Chrono Trigger, when the year Chrono Trigger came out, because everyone knew that if Chrono Trigger did not win Game of the Year in Nintendo Power that year, that it was a complete farce. And it kind of was anyways.
Lose a lot of their credibility. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing, though, is that they had credibility back then. It felt a lot more. Whereas now you you see it all the time. Whenever IGN gives a review, it's joked about. It's 7 out of 10 IGN or 10 out of 10 IGN, and it's because a lot of the times they're way too afraid. And I can't remember what it was that released recently, but the guy, because I dabble in all forms of reviews and stuff. I like to formulate my own opinion anyway, a lot of the time, and end up picking up a review. Not a review, a copy myself to give my own opinion and stuff. But I don't know who it was, but the guy went hard on that game. And it was the first time in a while where it was just they're not sugarcoating this, they're actually, calling the flaws out and, holding them accountable. And it was a breath of fresh air.
You're talking about IGN?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, was it Suicide Squad with Dustin Legary?
It might have been, yeah.
That was a real refresher for me as well. Yeah.
Because they could have just tarted that up and just been because they didn't go hard on Avengers at all. They gave that shit a free pass, big time.
You made the joke about IGN and the 7s out of 10s from all these other companies and stuff, and I think someone actually made a meme video about it where they were showing all of these reviews from companies and stuff like that, and it was just words passing by on the screen, and Pink Floyd's Money was playing in the
Mm.
The sound of the cash register going and stuff. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, it's you know, you bring up an interesting point, Loon, about the feeling like back in the day reviews were more trusted. I do want to throw out this counter, not argument, just a different way of looking at it that I'm still trying to think of right now. Do you think that there was something to when we were younger, we looked up to these people a little bit more and like we just looked at them as adults, so we thought that they were more trustworthy or something? Because I think the story
Uh,
with Kane and Lynch is actually a really good example of, which it turned out great because that spawned Giant Bomb when Jeff Gertzman was just like, fuck this, I'm not gonna
yeah.
be subjected to this. And then Square Enix pulling one, threatening to pull their advertising budget because he gave it like a 7 out of 10. It's just that's absolutely asinine. So do you think there is something to the idea that like, yeah, maybe from the, the beginning of time with reviews there was a good level of corruption, but we were just younger and more naive in the past?
To a degree, I would agree with that, but at the same time, as well as saying, like they were a lot more formulated though as well. When they were written in them
Hmm.
magazines, it took a lot more effort. And you look at some of these reviews now that they pump out, and it really just feels like it's just cookie cutter stuff of just they don't tell you half the stuff, and they don't give you the full picture because they're afraid of receiving backlash.
Yeah.
And
And it costs pennies compared to put a publish like something on a web page versus printing magazines and mailing them out and all of this other stuff. And like, printed media is a very heavy investment. So like they kind of like had to go through and make sure that
yeah, they have to hold
we have to
themselves
get this right.
accountable because they need
Like,
to sell them every single month. If
yeah,
somebody reads that and they're like, "This is a load of crap," you're not going to buy it, and you will just lose your play. Whereas clicks are clicks. It doesn't even matter if you don't like it; you've still clicked on it. They get that ad revenue.
yeah, the ad
Like,
revenue is like
yeah,
it's just all that instant gratification for them, and that's dropped their quality.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely across the board.
I've never thought about that digital clicks are literally less valuable. Like it doesn't cost as much to get a website running as it did like print magazines. So
No,
inherently there might be less effort tied into it because you know that your entire site isn't dependent upon someone going into the gas station and picking up the magazine the next month or whatever the case may be because they trust the quality in the magazine. Now, and I think that's a lot of what you see now with the outrage journalism and hate clicks and this, that, and the other, or rage clicks, whatever they call it. And it but I will say this is that it's to the question of do reviews matter in 2024. I do have two examples that came to the top of my head where I still do think they matter, but in maybe just a different way. I don't think the I don't think the body of the review really matters, like what's being said in the review matters so much. I think the number still really, really matters to the masses. I'm not saying it necessarily matters to us, but
oh yeah,
whenever you look at Elden Ring and the success it did, I mean, it sold double the next best selling Souls game in a year. And I think that at the time it was like the second or third highest reviewed aggregate game ever on Metacritic. Baldur's Gate 3 sold 5 times more than any Baldur's Gate ever, in one year. And I think it was like this one of the highest reviewed games of all time in the aggregate. And Metacritic is still thrown around like a ton whenever you're just scrolling through Twitter. Oh, it's sitting at a 84, it's sitting at a 91. And people, I think, really, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with looking at a Metacritic as an aggregate and going, okay, hey, well, 200 sites reviewed this game and they came in around an 88. That generally should suggest that the game is of decently high quality. I don't think there's anything wrong
mhm.
with that. So I guess I'll kick this back around and we'll go back around the horn. Loon, what do you think about the idea that uh, can reviews still can an aggregate site like Metacritic, where all these different reviewers submit their scores, do you think that matters in 2024 more so than like individual outlet reviews?
Um, so I don't delve really. How many outlets do they pull from, and what's the range of it? Is it just the top outlets that get to put their stuff on Metacritic, or is it
Oh, it's a ton. It's more than probably there's some outlets on there that are questionable for sure.
okay? And that's what I mean. So they have an impact on that. They don't eliminate their rank if it's
Well,
unfavorable.
well, they're weighted differently. So like IGN is weighted the highest, and then it has a whole bunch of different,
Mm,
yeah.
okay. Um, no, I think Metacritic definitely should exist because of the way the industry and how people consume things now. A lot of people, like, I get it. I've said about, like, for me, I would rather have like a really deep delved review where it goes over very deep aspects of every part of the game. But a lot of people just want that. Is it good? Is it bad? Because people have such short attention spans in this day and age. So these numbers matter for the younger generation behind me a lot more, and maybe for other people who don't really want to, devote that time to listen to a deep and long review. So they definitely have a place. And we've pulled from Metacritic on some of the videos we've done with the draft and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
So
lie. I like Metacritic.
I know you're a big numbers guy.
I love numbers because here I don't want to cut you off, but so I don't like deep dive reviews before playing the game because I don't really want to know anything about it before playing it. So
Mm,
that's why I think Metacritic is so useful just to go, oh, Pacific Drive, that's actually doing okay. I'm gonna, if it's sitting around an 82, sure, I'll go grab a copy. Like that's the only, and I usually don't even do that. I was gonna grab Pacific Drive anyway. I'm just throwing that out there as a random
that's
example.
what, yeah.
So what so do you want deep dive reviews before playing a game or do you usually look to those after playing it?
I would like them to be accessible, but then I guess it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? I won't watch them on the first day though, for me.
Right.
What I usually look for, like, I went and watched that Suicide Squad thing because it's like, this is going to be ours. Am I wrong about this? And I did the same for Hogwarts Legacy because I had no faith in it and stuff like that. If it's a game like, for instance, what came out recently, the Unicorn Overlord game, I knew I was going to pick that up, so I don't want anything spoiled about it and stuff, and I'd like to formulate my own opinion and not have it influenced and stuff like that. So for me, I think it's good that they exist for those that want that kind of information day one. But I
Yeah.
would usually be buying them games anyway. Usually, I'd be using these longer reviews for stuff that I'm on the fence about because I don't go into every game looking at reviews and
Well,
dictating whether I'll be buying it
right.
with them.
Mundane, how do you feel about, and I guess we'll kind of just use this as a jumping off point to talk about numbers and review scores in general, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, all that stuff. How do you feel about Metacritic and OpenCritic
Um,
kind of aggregate sites and number scores in general, wherever you want to take that?
I mean, I think they have their use. To Matt and Looney's credit, like or to his point, um, I I generally don't pick up games day one. I usually wait like a month or two later and make up my mind after that because again, I'm old school. I want my old school feel of like knowing that I am spending my money on something that is worth my money. And just like yeah, the everyone should have all options available to them. Here's the day one reviews for the people who want that. Here's the numbers for the people that want that.
Mm.
But the whole like reviews are no longer considered advertisement anymore, to be honest. Like to my point earlier where it was like, they got review copies like 1 or 2 months ahead of time and stuff. These companies did that because it was seen as good advertisement. for their game. Like, here's this super trusted magazine and this really good person that's like got a huge following and stuff, and he says our game is great, so we're going to do really well. But reviews aren't that anymore. They are not advertisements anymore. They are a number that's either going to like put you at the top of everyone's want list or be the final nail in your coffin.
Mm.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because they're too afraid to give stuff like 4s, 5s, and 6s.
Yeah.
Not only afraid of that, and then when they do that, you see them games crash and burn. So maybe, yeah, I guess looking at it in that light, like, they do have importance more than probably first given credit to, because you see these games like, what did Immortals of Avium get out of curiosity?
I was literally just about to bring that up. It was around that
Because
7 range.
and that
And
yeah, and that wasn't good enough, and that killed it, and that's crazy.
and here's the thing is like, I don't just look at the critic reviews and stuff. I look at user reviews. Like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at those. I give those more weight than these critics that are, you know, trying their best to like fly through 20 games in a week or something like that. And it's like, they have no time to show any real interest or any real depth in any game that they get. It's
Yeah.
like, we got this free game. We've got to do a review on it, because if we don't do it in time, or if we give them a bad review, we're never going to get another game from them again. And that's the, like, any company that wants to act that way, hit the door. Go pound your feet. Like, I don't need you in this space anymore.
It's such a bummer because like I love the idea of user reviews for Metacritic and stuff like that. I wish we could have like a separate section where there's like qualified trusted user scores, because you can go and look at some of the user scores on Metacritic for certain games that are objectively great and they're like a 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10 because of whatever random boycott reason, this, that, or the other. It's asinine. But yeah, it's the point you made earlier about Immortals of Avium and how a 7 kind of killed that game. I look at Days Gone as a similar thing, where it's a game that foundationally was really, really interesting, and it missed the market launch. But John Garvin and Jeff Ross, they went on David Jaffe's podcast, who were the leads of the development of Days Gone, and talked about how Sony really, really brought the hammer down because that thing was at an aggregate of like a 7 out of 10 on Metacritic. And that was like one of the big reasons that Days Gone 2 never saw the light of day, because of Metacritic. And it was just like, and I think you brought that up earlier, Mondane, about how much it matters. And it's like, man, should number scores really matter that much if you have a solid foundation to build off of? And people were interested in it, like it sold pretty well. But why should it matter to that degree? You know what I mean? That is kind of wild.
Because it's incredible. It's the numbers game. Because Fallout New Vegas suffered from the Metacritic curse as well. They were screwed out of bonuses because they were like 2 points off or whatever it was.
Yep. And here's the thing: is it's the problem with most modern businesses these days. Their goal is not to create an awesome product. Their goal is the profit. And these Metacritics and all of this other stuff, all of these numbers and stuff feed into that. It's not about making like, the best RPG on the PS4. Like, I have an old Super Nintendo game that is probably one of the best story RPGs I've ever played in my life. It's Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. That game looks like complete ass. It is the most awful looking RPG I have seen in a long time. It looks like it belongs on the NES. It's, like, you get into a fight and the map shakes and everything, and then like the bad guys pop up and they're all they are is like screened over the background that you're currently at, and it blurs out the background a little bit, and that's it. And you see the little four things at the the four party members at the bottom, and you hit like attack and all this. It looks awful. It looks as bad as like Final Fantasy One does, and it's on the Super Nintendo. But the story is so good and stuff. And I look at that and I think, how would that perform, with today's reviews? And it was like it would be trashed. It would be completely trashed.
That's a good jumping off point. I think that is so that makes me think about bias in reviews and in genre specific reviews. Like, do you think that matters? Because how I think about it is if you were to come to me and you wanted like an in-depth deep dive on Sea of Stars, it's like, dude, you are coming to the wrong guy when it comes to, turn-based art. It's like, and so there's an inherent bias there where it's like I'm very much not a old school turn-based RPG guy. But then on the other side, like if you come to me looking for a review on Dragon Age 4 whenever it comes out, and you're looking for someone to be mad because it's not the same as Origins, and they're going to a more action style, then I'm not the guy. But if you're for someone who's going to actually look at Dragon Age 4 and try to weigh it based on how it actually is performing as an action RPG, then it's like, cool, I'm that guy. So it's weird that bias is just inherently tied into all of us. But I hear all the time, like, I miss the days of old when reviews weren't biased. And I was just like, I always think to myself, it's like, were they ever not biased?
No,
No.
there's always
Incorrect.
been everything across the board. They like even news outlets that are meant to be
The
middle
human
of the
element
road.
exists.
Yeah, it's just how it is. Because you have Alien Isolation is like one of the most top examples of bias in reviews. That is heralded as one of the really great horror games, but the person who reviewed it hated horror games, so they bombed the reviews, and it sold like shit because of that.
And
Because people went in with the mindset of, oh, it's a bad game then.
What was it? Cyberpunk was like there was this one lady who did a review, and she's like, oh, I hate crafting. And like, you what?
Yes, yeah, I remember.
You hate crafting, and like you just like ignore that entire part of the game and everything, and it's like, but people wanted to hear about this. My most famous one that I've heard was EGM a long time ago did a review of Castlevania Symphony of the Night and gave it a 2 out of 10.
What was the
Symphony of
rundown
the
reason?
Night. Huh?
Do you remember?
Oh, because it wasn't 3D.
Mm.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like this is one of the greats, one of the best Metroidvania games. It was beautiful, had great music. The game was damn near perfect, but they gave it a 2 out of 10 because they hated it. And EGM did something else. I think it was like one of the early PlayStation 1 Alien games where it was the first time anyone had ever done the dual analog for a first-person shooter. And they hated it because they were just like, yeah, they hated that too. And it was like, this is terrible. I don't like this control scheme and blah, blah, blah. And now it's the standard.
Yeah. I do remember
So-
that. That was hilarious. Somebody touched on that. Yeah.
Hugely bad biases and stuff. And it's like, people stuck in their way. You hand I think back in the day, they handed the review to the correct person instead of the available person.
I think it's because it was also a hell of a lot more niche as well.
Yeah.
You were able to filter out a lot of the crap games because I would say the market is mildly smaller. Because you're not being bombarded. When you load up Steam on a daily basis, you're greeted with, 15, 20 new releases and stuff. That's impossible to keep up and do reviews for all of that. So you knew knew who the established people were who were going to make good games, and you would cover them games. And you also knew what the fans wanted as well. You're not going to be covering a really crap game because it's not going to sell your magazine and stuff. And what would be printed on the demo discs as well.
Yeah, and,
Well,
and clicks are not nearly as they are not as much of a commitment to my attention. Like I click on a website
flicks.
and I give it, and it's like I look through the, I might have misclicked, I might have accidentally clicked, and I'm like trying to get off that web page or something. But purchasing a magazine is much, much more deliberate, and
Absolutely.
that's more of the lends more to the problem. Like I don't know, I want magazines back. Like over the old man shouting at the clouds, right?
So, Loon, do you kind of feel similarly that review bias or bias in general for reviewers is just inevitable?
It is inevitable, but I think a way of avoiding it is like we touched on. Hand it to the right person. Okay. Know what the product is, because you know what it's going to be, you know? When these new releases are coming out, you have that Trials of Mana game coming out, or whatever it's called. You're not going to hand that to the guy that's really into racing games. Like that's just stupid. That's moronic. Just give it to the person that you know is a fan of the series, so they can give an opinion that actually matters. They can critique the parts that they would know need to be critiqued in a certain way and looked in a certain light. So yeah, bias is absolutely inevitable, but yeah,
Well,
it can be mildly avoided.
what do you think about the rise of like individual reviewers, like a Skill Up and ACG? And a lot of people would look at them as more trusted, which I do too, than the big established outlets. But how does bias work for individual personalities reviewing games?
I'm trying to think of the game that. Oh, what was it? I was playing Lords of the Fallen, and I had it was auto playing like reviews and stuff. Because usually when I'm doing like grindy stuff like that, that's what I have playing. And I can't remember who it was. There was three reviewers who were like solo reviewers, and they were kind of called out. Angry Joe was one, and then there was two other ones. And I can't remember what title it was, but it was people calling into question their credibility because it was Payday 3, that was it. And the point is that Payday 3 developers paid for them to come out for this like exclusive showcase, paid for their rooms, the service, the food. They had all of this like room set up for them. So they were treated like gods. So they're gonna give within a certain bit of wiggle room, like even if they didn't enjoy the game, you can't give an unbiased and be critical entirely of the product because you've had so much thrown in your face and gifted to you. And people were like, hold on a second, this game, you're not even calling out its faults when it was in the review and stuff like that. You're giving it a lot of free passes. Like, what's going on here? And some of them, it came out that, they have written sponsorship obligations. You have agreed to do 5 videos on this game. Even you hate it. And you see it now, like with Skull and Bones. Game is arse. No one wants to be playing that right now. And you see some of these.
To be good.
And some of these people are still posting videos on it, and it's just like, I get it. It needs to keep the lights on. You need like your bills paid and stuff, but it sucks that this is what it's come to. Like, your fan base would rather you be playing something and watching you play something that you're enjoying rather than what you're slogging through to get to a quota.
Yeah.
Like,
It's weird because like, how do you feel? I have really weird feelings about access journalism, whatever you want to call it, where being able to review a game early, I understand that that is beneficial to the consumer, but I also, there is a part of me where I'm just like, man, how much of this can I really trust? Because we know of so many instances other than, IGN and well, even then it's happened.
Mhm.
I remember hearing Shane Satterfield talk about he gave uh, I don't I you know what, I'm not even going to mention the company because I'm not sure if I'm
Allegedly.
allegedly. I
There we go. Now we're covered.
and also I don't know if this is the right company, but from my memory, I think it was Rockstar that he gave a Rockstar game like a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or something that was like a good score. And one of the Rockstar execs were like, they cornered him in the office, not like, physical, but like they were like yelling like, what, why did you give our game it's much better than that. And like threatened to pull, the next review, to not give him the next review. And I think this was when he was working at like G4. So I mean a powerhouse. And I don't know. It just, if we know that that is out there, if we know that those situations have occurred, it's just really hard to go into these reviews where people get early access to it and trust it implicitly, because we know that inherently that's going to be going on in the back of your head at some point.
Yeah.
Well, so that's because the power dynamic has shifted in the relationship between these two. All of the power is with the publishers now, not with the reviewers. And because of that, the reviewers have to sacrifice something. Unfortunately, it's their integrity. So, like, if we could actually get, can you imagine some website where it's like, we are way high up, we have our integrity, we have everything, and the next time that like Naughty Dog or Square or whoever else, Blizzard, decides that they're going to threaten us, we'll just call them out in the middle of the fucking article.
Oh,
and just like just boom, right then and there, like, not only was this game not that great, but they actually threatened us here, so like we're probably not going to be reviewing their games for a little while and stuff. And they're like just public black eye, like.
And that's what I was trying to touch on with them three that got called out on it, because up until that point, they're growing their channels and stuff. Angry Joe's obviously very established and stuff, but they had called out bullshit in the past. Then they get treated like gods in this, and it completely changed, and they just weren't themselves. And that's what, like,
you have to turn that down.
You have to that's the only thing.
You're not a streetwalker. You gotta turn it down.
Yeah, I can't agree to this because this will heavily influence my opinion on it, and I want to give an unbiased review as much as I can. That's not influenced by you throwing goodies at my face and treating me like a god.
I think that I remember when SkillUp, he refused to do the Cyberpunk review at launch because they wouldn't allow him to record his own gameplay. And
that's good.
Yeah, that was like, I think that y'all were talking about, I think Mundane, you brought this up, a company or a reviewer becoming so big that they're more needed than the individual needs the game. So the dynamics have to shift. And I think SkillUp is on the cusp of that. I don't know if it'll ever get back to the days of old where it was like, these 3-4 magazines pretty much determined the fate of your game. But I guess to transition over, are there any modern reviewers that you guys just typically go to or trust? Mundane?
No.
Loon?
Just no.
Wow, not even a little bit.
No.
Haven't got like the one guy. Wow, hot damn.
I mean, like I listen to my friend. I listen to Brandon about certain things that he's an expert at. I listen to some of your stuff and what you're an expert at. Square Pegs, Scott and Jen over at Retro Rivals. People who have similar tastes or have a taste in a game that I really like RNG Gamer for shmups. I'm always watching his stuff. Heck, I can even go down to his house if I needed to. But
Hey, that's bias. That's
Yeah, that is biased. Yeah, but like, but like, yeah, it's just like word of mouth for me has become so much more important
Mm.
than like what people say online, because word of mouth, you're at the water cooler talking with your friends about a game and whatever, you can call them out for being wrong right then and there. But like all of these places, like even when they print retractions on things where they've made a mistake, it's awful. Like the quality that the quality and passion that they put into their reviews is just completely lacking. Um, Spelling errors. I mean, do I need to say any more than that? Just rife with spelling errors because they
Yeah.
just don't care enough. It's like
Well,
they have no sense of pride.
yeah.
I don't know, Phil, I'm being negative about it, but it's like, yeah,
I mean, it's an overall negative topic, to be fair. Like this
yeah,
unfortunately, like you can't, we're not going to shed praise and positivity on something where it's, the standards have slumped big time.
Well, let's go positive for a second, Loon. Do you have any? Because I really am like I'm trying to find more reviewers that I trust, or more not necessarily even trust, but more reviewers that I am unaware of that other people find talented. Do you have any out there, modern reviewers?
Well, I've mentioned Mortismal, who does the 100%.
Yeah, I
Guy
looked
is
them
an
up.
absolute, yeah, guy's an absolute unit. But we've seen just a dip in them big time. Like a big one that used to be somebody who I'd follow was Total Biscuit. That guy was crucial for the industry, and it's so mad that we lost him. Nobody filled that role. Nobody's willing to step up and just call these people out. So he happily would just dig out any developer if he felt that it was justified and stuff like that. But no, a lot of the times I'm basing it on like me buying stuff, like I said, because the only other person who I guess reviews games that I consistently watch is it was Zero Punctuation and that whole debacle, and now the second wind, and that would be Yahtzee. And even then, like a lot of that stuff is tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
He, sometimes he'll give an actual little bit of a review in them, but it's mostly just for laughs and entertainment. So yeah, Multismal ACG is an okay one as well.
Yeah.
He's an okay guy, and yeah, it's a struggle, and it shouldn't be a struggle to be able to pick names out when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, eh, and I guess, this kind of translates into this is something you brought up, Looney, talking about how you prefer your reviews. Well, what style of content you prefer your reviews to be inside of, rather it be written or, short form, long form, whatever the case may be. And am I see I drive so much for work. Like 99% of my day at work is just driving. So I for me it's just podcasts. That's how I consume. That's really the only media I even consume, honestly, other than games. And so I that's how I all of my video game coverage comes by way of podcasts, or at least most of it, 99% of it. And I, I've become I've become not desensitized, but like I can't really listen to written reviews anymore. I've tried like listening to long, deep dive written reviews while I'm driving, and I'm just like, man, I for some reason my brain needs some sort of natural chemistry, some sort of natural
You
conversation.
need that back and forth where they're
Yeah,
batting off of each other. I think that's good though because if it's like they can at least in the moment call them out on maybe something that they've overlooked or maybe round off the opinion a little bit better. Because if you're just doing it on your own, talking or writing, you can, even if you're proofreading, sometimes you can just completely overlook something.
100%, dude. And I'll get out a couple shout outs here. Sifted, Game Face. is a podcast. If you want like deep dive, super deep dive reviews and in podcast form, that's the Shane Satterfield dude who was, from G4 and game trailers and all that. And then Matt Kyle, he was G4 as well. And that dude, Matt Kyle, is like you said earlier, a unit. And when it comes to like breaking down lore and knowing history behind things, it's
Mm.
great. It's crazy, dude. So shout out to them, and also shout out to Summon Sign over at Last Stand in terms of deep dive game discussions. Those are like my two go-tos. Also, the deepest dive for MinMax. There's some good stuff out there that aren't
Well,
in the.
a name's just popped into my. Sorry.
You thought of one?
Yeah, and I want to
Okay,
make
cool.
sure I don't get it wrong.
Cool. But yeah,
By the way,
there
YouTube Shorts. Jesus Christ.
there there still are some outlets just outside of the traditional media, not so much, but a little bit outside of it. Yeah, there's definitely still some good stuff out there. Did you find that?
Yeah, Luke Stevens. You heard of
Luke,
him?
yep. He does
Guy
super
is
deep dive.
yeah,
Yep.
really good. Really good.
Yeah, I've stumbled across more like I'll go to YouTube late at night, and I've actually stumbled across a lot of his live clips lately. He's got like this whole
Mm,
new thing that he was doing there. I was like, damn, that looks actually really freaking fun. I've been thinking,
mm.
how can I figure out how to do it? But it's pretty damn. That's super super difficult. But Mondane, um, transitioning over to you, how do you prefer to consume your reviews nowadays? Are you a written word guy, YouTube guy, podcast guy? How are you leaning nowadays?
Uh, well, I mean, like written word is not so great for me. I have astigmatism and dyslexia, so like that's reading is actually a true chore for me, unfortunately. So mainly it's through YouTube. Just because like I can consume it like you're consuming stuff while you're driving around. I'm consuming stuff while I'm watching digital paint dry because I'm working IT, so like I'm installing something or fixing something, and it's like I'm going to be sitting here for the next like hour and a half. What am I going to do? Because I have to babysit this thing. If it goes into an error state, I have to stop it and start over, kind of thing. And it's like I'm going to watch something. I'm not just going to sit there and like, like, okay, I'm just watching this progress bar and like, no. I'm going to consume something. Pop out the phone, pop, put the earbuds in and just start watching whatever. And that's usually it. I usually get like most of my input from my friends. Every once in a while, like, I mean, I've been gaming for a long time, so like, oh look, SquareSoft is coming out with another game. Okay, I'm gonna go look at them. Like I know the pedigree of a lot of these companies,
Yep.
and so like I stick with trends that I like. It's like, oh, I like Star Wars games, so I'm gonna take a look at this one or take a look at that one and stuff, and like Jedi Fallen Order and stuff. Like, I still haven't picked up the last Star Wars game. I still haven't picked up Armored Core just because I just haven't done it yet. But like, they're at the top of my list. Like,
Yeah.
family members and stuff are asking what to buy me for my birthday and stuff, and it's like, yeah, here's the list. Like, here's the couple of things and
Gets
stuff.
the scroll out and it just falls to the ground and keeps rolling.
That's such a
Dude,
good point.
It's not that bad, but yeah, it's like, yeah, and it's like my I waited and waited and waited to buy the PS5 version of Cyberpunk, and it's because I didn't want to buy it for myself. I wanted someone else to be able to have that option to buy it for me. My stepson bought it for me for Christmas, and so now that game even has even more meaning for me because
Yeah.
like I wasn't attached to it enough. But
No, you hit on a really really good thread there. It's so crucial to know your publishers and know your developers and sort of get a because reviews be damned. There are if Rockstar, if Naughty Dog, if Obsidian, like there's developers, publishers out there where I don't give a damn if they get a 4 out of 10. I'm probably going to go and check out that game. You know what I mean? Just because it's like I want to play the latest Naughty Dog game, or even if it's a total disaster, it's like I got to see this dumpster fire. You know what I mean? Like
Morbid curiosity.
All right.
right? Like how does a Steam developer go from the mountain to the damn pits of hell? And so yeah,
Redfall would be that example. Jesus Christ.
perfect example. Perfect example. Um, well, let's go ahead and I got you in on that one, Loney, didn't I?
Yeah,
Did
please
you?
so.
Okay.
If we didn't, it's just I'd probably prefer the longest video imaginable that you could
Yeah.
give me. But kind of a little bit of a veer and kind of related to it. I value retrospectives a hell of a lot more than reviews.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of you feel the same way, and I think maybe it's because I've missed out on so many of these older games. So me looking at these people who played it back then and have this deeper tie with that, and I'm like,
I think
huh,
that
that's
leans.
interesting.
I think that leans more towards the passion.
Mm, yeah,
If
Yeah.
someone is
because they take
passionate
so
about something,
long to make as well. It's
Mm.
literally like really late reviews. The guy that I've mentioned a few times, friend of mine, guy put so much effort into like he did the Pathfinder review, he did a Blood Rain review. That's a series that's like heavily underrated. Dragon's Dogma propelled him big time.
Yeah.
And it's because, you're doing stuff that you absolutely love. So there's never going to be where you boot it up and it's grumbling. There may be like obviously a few gripes you have with the game, but it's the majority of it is, he's decided to do this type of content because it's through passion and love and wanting to push that as much as you can. You can see like look at games in a different light that you might have just overlooked and stuff like that. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. So I guess we've talked a bit here about the positives and given some good shout outs and stuff like that. So I guess we'll go back to negative land for a minute. And I don't even know this isn't really negative land. It's just more I want y'all's opinion on how much of a game should a reviewer play before providing their review. Are you in the camp of, if it's a 100-hour game, if you've played 65, 70 hours, you're fine. Do you absolutely need to finish it? Are you someone who thinks you should 100% it, get the platinum before you review it, get all the achievements, whatever the case may be? How do y'all feel about how much of a game should a reviewer play before they provide their review? I'll hit you first, Mondane.
I think they should be public about how much of the game they've played.
That's a damn
Absolutely.
good point.
Like, here's our review. The person only played for like 14 hours or something like that. I mean, just be honest. Be honest with your audience. You'll not be disappointed with your results. And if you are disappointed with your results, change it. Like,
Yeah.
this is an insight to your target audience. So, like, take advantage of it. Now that being said, like, I'm not going to give a lot of weight to anyone who's like, yeah, I played 10%. Now, if it's a shmup and
Right.
stuff where it's like, it's kind of repetitive and it doesn't really change that much, that's fine. But if it's like a 200-hour JRPG and they played 10 minutes, no,
Yeah.
like that's absolutely, disrespectful to the genre and to the fans that would have that level of commitment to the game.
Yeah.
So, like, oh, I did a 5-minute review of Octopath Traveler. Get out of here. No.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be joking, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, so you got to watch the opening credits? Is that it? you got through a little tutorial? Like, no. You
Yeah.
can't. Everything's going to be different. Like, I I mean, it'd be like as silly as watching someone who's like doing a review of a racing game and they haven't even completed a lap.
Right.
Yeah, no, that was a perfect example.
That's so
They've not
stupid.
even gone around the first corner. They're like,
Yeah,
it's not fast
yeah.
enough. Crap
It's
game.
not fast. Yeah, crap game because it's like not you didn't even complete a lap in the race. No, like every category based on the time investment that is like expected from the player should have an influence on how long the review should be.
Yeah.
So I didn't give you an answer.
No, you did. I hear what you're saying. You're saying honesty is like, and I agree. Honesty is the best policy. Like if you have played 20 hours out of the 30, so I guess I'll throw mine in and I'll kick it to you, Loon. I really, 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 really wish that it was just mandated that you have to roll credits. Just get through the main story. That's
for every review.
Every game.
Holy shit! I feel bad for those Redfall reviews.
That's almost unrealistic, unfortunately.
well, here's the thing: if it's like unplayable, broken, whatever the case may be, then it's like you can. I think you can submit a 5 out of 10 and go, "Hey, this thing is unplayable. It's broken." But like, I don't. So here, I'll say this: I just finished BioShock Infinite. Mm-hmm. That ending is so drawn out and unnecessary to the point of like unbearable. Like I maybe died 4 times throughout the entire game. I probably died 12 times at the ending. And it felt like padding out length to a game that was like I was so satisfied up to that point. Yep. If I would have died a few times, it would have been, but that ending for sure brought my enjoyment of that game from like a 9 point. I mean, I loved that game and I still do, but it brought my enjoyment from like a 9.4 down to like a 9.1 or whatever the case may be. Like it really affected my overall where I would rate it. And so it's like, if you don't have the full context, how can you properly rate the game? That's just but then again, it loons someone like you who 100% games, you have 100 times greater context than I do for a lot of these games. So maybe you would be like, well, these side quests suck. And if I didn't play the side quests, so it's like, you can go round and round with this. I'll kick it to you, Loon. My thing would be, if you finish the main story, I think your review is totally worthwhile, worth hearing out. How do you feel about that?
So there are multiple layers, because I don't think there's just one right answer really to it, and that would be very, very similar to you. Like, hit the credits, but for something like a Redfall, like, look, I don't want anyone to go through that. It is a waste of time. Like, I get someone spent time on making this product, but it is a slog to play. So what did we play? We co-opted. It was like 3 hours, and we made a fully fine verdict of it. Just this is arse.
But here's the thing:
I don't need to play any further of that.
I don't think you or I would ever go on record and score that.
No.
You know, so that's kind of the thing.
If I was in a review thing, I would probably drop like a tweet to say that, look, we've tried this, and it just, look, if you're looking and hoping that we're going to review it, I'm not going to waste my life. I'm sorry, it's my opinion. You know, if you enjoyed it, I'm happy for you people. Grab your mind, but you know, it's not worth the time investment. No way in hell do I think that they should be standardized as 100%. Though that is crazy. Like I love Mortismal for his unique shit. The guy is, like I said, a unit. That would kill the industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
But it would be more realistic. It would be more realistic if they got the review copies 2 months early, though.
Yeah, no.
Bingo.
Absolutely. That would be achievable, but I still don't think that they would even, like I said, it's passion as well. To 100% almost anything. He doesn't 100% everything that comes across his path, but you're talking, 8 out of 10 things that land in his lap.
Yeah.
The guy's like, I got this.
You're Mundane, you're 100% on the money. It is very much about the lack of time given to these reviewers. And we've shat on modern reviews for an hour here at this point, but I think it is worth outlining that business is not as profitable as it used to be, so there's less people. I don't know about, I shouldn't say that, but no doubt that the conditions at places like IGN, GameSpot, whatever, it's pretty rough. Getting a copy for a 40-hour game, getting a review code for a 40-hour game a week early, and expected to give a real in-depth breakdown review of that game. It's like, it's just not what publishers are doing to these reviewers is kind of cruel in a lot of sense. Like, eh, I understand it's a job. Everybody works hard at their job, but I don't know how we could even expect good in-depth analysis under those conditions of being given a review code for a 60-hour game a week or two in advance. It just doesn't seem reasonable.
But it's deliberate, though, isn't it?
Meaning,
Because the multiple layers to me saying it's deliberate. You have the thing of look at when they were testing the waters with offering game trials through EA Play, and Mass Effect Andromeda went there, and it was the biggest success of them getting subscribers, but it killed the game because people were 2 hours into it and it became a joke. It was all over the internet, and that did it no justice and no help at selling that game, and nobody bought it. So they have this tight grip where you give a very tiny window because, you know, then they can get it out and they feel forced to get it out, and people have very, very small amounts of times to, because it's also the FOMO as well.
Yeah.
That review drops and they're like, I want it. I don't want to miss out on this and stuff like this. It takes so much self-control. But once you break through, because I think you also still haven't purchased Alan Wake 2. I'm still holding strong.
me too.
Like, I'm sticking to my guns of,
Well, I
it
mean,
hurts. But,
so
yeah.
any time that like someone is trying to press you for time and shove you and keep pushing you forward and pushing you forward, they're trying to control the outcome.
Yes.
This happens with people that are like hackers and stuff. You get that email of like, hey, we've approved your purchase for $10,000 of this thing over here. You have 20 seconds to respond, kind of thing. It's like,
News to me that I got 10,000. Thanks.
It's just one of those things where it's like they're trying to manipulate the outcome here. And they're using any kind of high pressure they can do to manipulate the review. And I get it. They want a good review because it's, like I said, it's either going to put it on your people's want list, or it's going to be the final nail in the coffin again. But we just need to get back to that point, though, where it's like review copies are going out early, like a month or two. Your goal is to create a good product, and profit is just a byproduct of your success. That the reviewers have integrity and do things like, yeah, we appreciate that you invited us for a whole weekend at Vegas with like 10 pounds of booger sugar and and all the ladies we could have, kind of thing. And it's like, we've got to step away from that. And unfortunately, I think the responsibility falls on us as gamers now. Because I guess it kind of got this way because we let it get this way.
How so? We kept reading and watching.
We kept giving them money. We kept reinforcing it. It's these corporations aren't like, too complicated. It's like a dog. You keep feeding the dog. The dog keeps doing whatever it thinks it's doing to get the treat.
Who did we give money to, though? Do you mean the publishers?
The publishers. Yeah.
Are you meaning from purchasing the game, or
Yeah, by
clicking on the
purchasing
videos?
games, clicking
Okay,
on the
interesting.
video, like everything.
Yeah,
And
because I was going to say it makes sense on the clicking because these things are so well calculated. They know
yeah,
that it's going to cost a shitload of money to do these event things, but they know that it will get much more coverage on these channels. But I think that's extremely difficult
That's what I was going to say, Loon,
to
is that
say people not support that because yeah, the buying I could get behind because we're both doing it with Alan Wake. That's just down to self control and stuff. And I guess at the same time it is self control to not click on it, but it's a hell of a lot less of an investment for me to click one button than
yeah.
I
that
mean nowadays it is still clicking one button to order a game. But yeah, you
yeah,
get my point.
but that see, that's the thing is like when I think about giving them money, like I'll never pay, an outlet that I think does horrible coverage. Like I do pay for gaming Patreons that I appreciate their content and I want to get more of, want to make sure they stick around and stuff like that. But like I would never pay for a bullshit outlet to maintain their existence ever. But you do pay by clicking on it. And I guess that's the thing I never really even thought about is like they make money from those outrage clicks and they
Yeah.
feed you that outrage porn and they're hoping you click on it. And by clicking on it and scrolling through their article and looking at the ads, you are, even though you're not intending to, kind of paying them.
Yeah,
But
because like you click on a like oh, I've got to see what this dumpster fire is going to be of a review. Like you click on them and you might as well just hear that cha-ching noise as soon as
right.
you start reading their article because they're getting that advertisement money.
And the publisher involvement that you brought up, Mundane, I think that is a really, really good point that I think people need to think about a lot more is that this whole cycle of reviews kind of being dog shit. I know everybody points the eye at the media, and for sure, there's a lot of blame to go around there. But man, the publisher does not make it easy on them. And
No.
with the state of games, and I don't want to make this a whole negative rant about the state of modern gaming, but a lot of reviewers, because I remember Days Gone, I remember seeing footage of Days Gone, that the build that reviewers were playing, it was horrendous, man. Like just total glitches, bugs out the wazoo. And then I played it on day one and it was like, this is fine. And I so publishers are not making it easy for reviewers either. So we definitely, yeah, it's worth bringing up that they're,
Yeah, maybe
somewhat to blame.
maybe ping ponging back to that as that's probably why they're probably hesitant of giving them 2 months in advance. Because they're older builds of the game a lot of the time.
Yeah, that is true.
Because with this whole industry and the way it's gone, you're getting things even when you buy the game and you get it at release, the thing you're initially
Day one
installing
patches.
is it's not it's that old build and then they patch on top of it. So you think of and then they would form their opinion on that and then that would be invalidated immediately upon release a lot of the time. Well, I say a lot of the time, there's so many things that release broken anyway. But yeah, like you were saying, if they've entirely based their review off of that Days Gone footage, and then you picked it up day one, and you was like, "What are they talking about? It runs fine."
Well,
That
I mean,
would,
you would have to preface that in the
yeah,
review. It's like, hey,
but
here's the
but
build
then that's
number that we're
worthless,
redoing
isn't
the
it? Though,
review.
as well, for the most part.
But it's only worthless for bugs and mechanics and stuff if they don't do any major changes or anything like that. And it's still a review of the story and all of this other stuff. Like, I mean, you could make the same argument for people who reviewed a game like 2 weeks after it came out, and now it's a year later, and the game's completely changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
There's so much different.
Wouldn't that be the publisher's fault? It's like, dude, you give them a review copy of a game that is broken and you expect them to say like, oh, it might be better in the future. 7 out of 10 might be better in the future.
Might be better in the future.
It's
7
crazy.
out of 10. But so, yeah, I mean, with the passage of time, everything's going to change, especially with gaming now, with like updates and patches and all this other stuff. So we just got to get. I mean, like, where are we going to give? And I think it's actually, sadly, our responsibility to turn around and like try to find these reviewers that have integrity and help prop them up and let everyone else fall to the wayside. Because not everyone on the planet is stupid. They will figure this out. They will figure out, oh, wait, all of these people that didn't go on the Vegas trip, that didn't take the bribes and stuff, they're the only ones that are getting all of this advertisement money now. Well, that's the way the market has shifted, and so they're going to follow the market. So, like, it's kind of up to us to
I mean, you hit the nail on the
turn
head
around and
of
do that.
it's up to us. It's up to us to set the standard.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah, like we
stop.
demand integrity from our reviewers. We
It's not even
demand
just reviewers and stuff. It's also the state of the game itself. On top of that, it's a hand in hand thing of if you're not happy with it, just don't buy it. Look at
Yeah.
a review. If you're kind of on the fence and you hear murmurings about, because the amount like it made the news that they're mass refunding Suicide Squad. I don't have any sympathy for anybody that bought that game. Like
Yeah.
you were just idiots. Like I'm sorry. Like you knew what it was most likely going to be, and instead of just waiting
You knew it was a
the
snake
date,
when you
because
picked it up.
they stung them on the thing of you buy the bigger pre-order bundle thing. There was even controversy of that. They had 72 hours early access. They were able to have it for 6 hours, and then they cut it off
I hate
until
that.
the day of release.
I'm not a fan of that at all.
And no, I'm not a fan of that either. But that is also a red flag immediately. And you still had faith in these people like you bought it day one, and it's just like I just don't understand you people. Like what? Just wait. If you're even have a mild hesitation of the game's quality, just wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait. Do the review. See what it's like. Go to different review outlets. Don't just stick to one either. Like get the consensus of as to what's going around, and then make your informed decision.
Well,
That way.
for sure. And I'll tell you this, man, like I don't use this resource as much as I should, but you have streamers now. So it's like you really don't even have to rely on reviews and just have you could literally turn Twitch on, boot up someone playing Suicide Squad, and see exactly how it runs. Like and exactly understand the foundation of how this game was built. You can understand everything about the game by watching, an hour and 30-minute Twitch stream. And then make your decision. Like, okay, is it in a playable state? Is this the type of game that I want? Like, we do have resources available to us to make our purchasing decisions much easier than back in the day. And yet, here's something I will say is you're starting to see, like with Suicide Squad, that it did not do well. And so players it seems like the general public is kind of waking up to a lot of this bullshit and forcing out the stuff that we don't want. But then again, Warner Brothers turn around and say, we're doubling down on live service after Suicide Squad bombed.
So there must be, even with these headlines of so many people refunding it, how many people haven't refunded it? Where they're sitting there like, all right, we have a mass
We're going to know in
refund, but
6 months, right?
No, exactly, and that's my point. Like that there has to be a big amount of people that are just happy with that then, or just can't be asked. And that's the thing that they love the most is the people that can't be bothered to go through the refund process. They will just take that loss and just be like, I'll just bitch about it on Reddit or YouTube or whatever.
Or it's some kid that their parents bought it for them, and they can't get through the refund process.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just, shame on them for being, vaguely predatory against kids that can't defend themselves.
Yeah. That brings up a really good point of physical media, which, it's not a physical media rant, but I mean, dude,
It could be.
Yeah, the thing about it is anytime I go and buy something from GameStop, Best Buy, whatever, I can bring that thing back, and with this new digital age, which you did say they were allowing refunds for Suicide Squad, which is great, but a lot of
But that
games,
only happens when there's mass outrage. Like the
exactly.
ones before that, like it before Cyberpunk's massive day one disaster, and it took
Yeah,
so much pushing for Sony to be like, all right, guys, Jesus Christ, we'll look into it and we'll do these refunds and stuff because they were just denying people. They were like, no, deal with the consequences. And I'm sorry, like there's part of me that were wishing that they had just said no. This is
well,
this is your this is your humble slice of pie. Take it. Like you didn't.
people people were
Go on.
quoting local laws for their states of lemon laws and pulling the old switcheroo and kind of thing, the bait and switch kind of stuff, and like to that effect, like Sony was being threatened with, "Oh, you can't sell games digitally in Alabama anymore or other states." Like, sorry, your online store doesn't work in our state anymore. That's what they were being
Mm.
threatened with in some cases.
It's crazy how people come out of the woodwork with all this knowledge when it's based on shitty decisions that they've got themselves into. It truly does baffle me how everybody starts getting on their little intelligent hats all of a sudden when you were complete dumbasses 24 hours earlier. Okay,
Yeah.
that's just my 2 cents on that.
It's the cyberpunk revisionism is something, and I've saw this from like prominent journalists who were saying, yeah, the game was always good. It was a outcry of, people who were bitching, people who were, it's like, dude,
The
what?
story was always good.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yes, 100%. The story, the lore, the characters, the world, like that was great. But for someone to earnestly say, and I've saw this from prominent media members who cover games for a living,
That's
saying
because I
that
don't want to anger CDPR. That's the thing, isn't it?
it,
You want to
it
stay in their good books.
you would have to
So that you get the
assume,
next review copy of
Yeah,
the next
exactly.
game. Yeah.
you would
And I'm
have
not
to
saying that
assume,
CDPR do that for definite, but it's just the things that people have to do in this day and age where they have to just be like, ah, but it was always good.
but
I'll
see
get
here,
that next review.
right. And here's the thing. I've seen people come around on Redfall and be like, well, the game's better now. And to me, that's fine. If that's your statement to say the game is better now, cool.
Hmm.
I can't debate that because I haven't went back to it. But when I saw people, prominent journalists saying Cyberpunk was never that bad, it was just, it was a bunch of people bitching over this, that, and the like you lose 100% of
Of the
your
credibility.
I,
credibility at that point.
Yep.
I'll okay. 2,000 hours into Cyberpunk. Um, I will say it was very bad in the beginning. Like I had I've never heard of anyone having a glitch as bad as the one that I ran into when I was trying to play the game on the PlayStation 4 Pro and record gameplay for a review and stuff like that. The game
Oh,
crashed during that time and corrupted the entire hard drive of the PlayStation 4 Pro. It forgot that it was a PlayStation 4. I had to reinstall the operating system from a USB drive and
Hmm.
lost
that is
all of my saves
that is
across all
absolutely, yeah,
games.
that is
I had to
absolutely
re-download
unacceptable.
everything. Yeah. And I still love the game.
It's a great game. It's objectively a great game. And let me be clear. If someone was to say that, yeah, Cyberpunk was always a great game on PC, on Series X, on
No.
PS5, but let's just
Yeah.
say that that was the statement. Okay, but you have to have that caveat. You have to say on the highest end PC, or you can't just say a blanket statement like, yeah, Cyberpunk was always great. People were just you lose all credibility.
Hmm.
But anyways, we're ranting in 50 different directions here. Speaking of credibility, uh, and Loon, I'll kick it over to you first on this one. Reviewers reviewing games and the difficulty scale. Where should reviewers be reviewing games at in terms of the difficulty settings? Is it okay for a reviewer to review a game on easy? Should they be playing it on hard? Is
No,
normal? Where do you
absolutely
go?
not. Hardest difficulty forever, permadeath. No, I'm joking. So for me, No, don't do it on hard. I don't think they should be doing it on easy. That like normal is there for a reason, in my opinion. Like that's the whenever they list that as a difficulty, it is the intended experience. 9 times out of 10, that is the sentence that they provide for that. So that is what they intend the experience to be, where they will have a difficulty curve laid out from the beginning to the end. So I think that that should most of the time be that. But then, like it goes back to you need to be saying these in your reviews. If you played it on easy, sure, like I don't have a problem with that. Just say that you played it on easy. You're gonna get flamed by many people on the internet because people just like to poke fun at people for anything that they possibly can get their hands on. But just say that. But yeah, that I think that would be as far as I'd go, and I wouldn't. They don't need to play it on hard at all.
Monday?
I think they should start it out. One, honesty is the best policy kind of thing. Like, hey, here's the game. Here's where it started at. I want them to start at the default setting. If that default setting is easy, so be it. If that default setting is taser to the small of my back, then start there. But then as the review progresses, go, hey, I really did find that the game was very difficult for me, so I lowered the difficulty to this at this point and moved forward and stuff. Like, just again, honesty. Like I sucked at the PlayStation 4 God of War game. I was terrible at it. I hated shoulder-based combat, where it's all on the shoulder buttons and stuff. And because I was used
Dark
to like
Souls influence,
I was so used
everything in this day and age.
to the PS3 era, God of War, where it's like, I wail in, I go wading in there and I'm a complete badass and I don't give a crap, and I just beat the hell out of everything. And then it's like I start doing this, and I'm like, "Oh, this is old man Kratos, and he's not so
He's
spry
old now.
anymore."
He's got some gray hairs and then
like,
beards.
and it's like it's like he's not able to whip around as much as he can and stuff. And it was so like that. It would have been so. I would have had so much more time for that game if someone had been honest in their review and said, yeah, this is kind of tough. I dropped it down to easy. Then I wouldn't have felt so bad about, trying to drop it down to easy and stuff. It's like, it's please be honest with your audience. The moment that you're deceiving them is the moment that you're losing them. Your integrity is not just to be held up against the publishers. It's to be used as a bridge between you and the gamers. As a reviewer, it is such a responsibility for them to have.
It's so funny, Mundane, because if I were to play Lufia or Final Fantasy VII OG or whatever the case may be, you would breeze through those games, and I would be really, really struggling with those games. And with like a God of War or something, I can run through that fine on normal because I'm just my third person action adventure, like that's my go-to genre. And that's the thing that becomes so difficult about the discussion of difficulty with reviews is like everybody's going to find something different more difficult than the next person. And this can be a genre specific thing. Like for me, I'm not good at turn-based games. I'm just not. Maybe it's patience, whatever the case may be, but I'm just not good at them. And so any type of turn-based thing, I'm bumping down to easy automatically.
Well,
but go ahead.
So like to your point with Lufia, if I was a professional game reviewer and everything, and I wanted to do all of this, I would turn around and I'd be like, okay, we're going through and we're playing Lufia and we're getting to this point, and this next boss is really, really tough. And I'm really good at the game, so I can like finish it at like level 35 or something like that. And it's like your average person is going to spend about 2 hours grinding in this area right here to gain about 5 levels. So you're at this level, and then you can continue to progress through. But that would be like if I'm doing like a very extended review kind of thing. But I
Right.
mean, and in those classic RPGs, stopping to grind out levels and stuff was one, expected, and two, the way that you lowered the difficulty.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that might be my issue. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
I don't
you're
I
not willing to grind.
never.
You gotta put some music on or something. Listen to some Sleep Token while you're just sitting there like bashing zombies and killing things and just like combat for 2 hours, and then you can go on to the next boss kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're 100% right about honesty. Honesty, that's the end all be all for all of this. Is if you are honest with your audience, then it's like it is what it is. Some people, like you said, Lone, there's going to be trolls out there who just are incredibly, incredibly rude for any given reason. And it's like you just have to take the good with the bad. But I think for the majority of people, outlets, reviewers, if you're honest with your audience, 99% of your audience is just going to appreciate the honesty. If you like, dude, I suck at survival horror, whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
And
especially with the difficulty related thing, because they would go in like with Octopath, like that game has some brutal difficulty spikes if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just if you don't do any grinding.
yeah,
Like you get to them boss fights and it's just like, wow, I'm getting my teeth kicked in. So if somebody's just picked up the review of Octopath and heard nothing but praise and nothing in form of like the difficulty and the way that the understanding things of a JRPG of how they tick with the grinding and stuff if you want to lower, they would have no idea. They'd be like, Jesus Christ. They'd get to them bosses and they would just get white and they'd be like, what am I missing? I don't understand. And then that would drive them away.
yeah,
But if you're honest, you build that trust relationship with between the reviewer and the gamer, and suddenly like that gamer's not coming back because oh, it's this website. They're coming back for a
For the purse.
particular writer and
Yeah.
stuff, and that's the power behind it. Is like that's why some of these individual reviewers are as big as they are. Is they've built that relationship between them. Like
Absolutely.
like I completely trust Brandon on reviewing any wrestling game. Like I bought like a stack of Xbox 360 games, and there was like 2 or 3 wrestling games in it. And I text you the like a pictures of them and
These
stuff.
any
I'm like,
good?
hey, which like are any of these worth keeping? And you were like, oh, that one's actually pretty good. That's the one I kept.
yeah,
It's like so it's
yeah,
just you've got to establish that relationship. It can't be throwaway. It cannot be
Mm,
if you can put some meaning behind it and stuff. And that's what I'm trying to do with my YouTube and stuff. Is like, you know, I am trying my best to teach people like don't be afraid of going out and collecting Sega Saturn. Yeah, the price is going to be high, but like you know here's how you don't get scared of that. And
yeah,
if you like how I'm helping you here, I can help you over here too.
right. Yeah, and obviously links to both of y'all's channel will be in the description and probably in the title, if it can fit. But yeah, the whole idea of honesty being the de facto goats. And you talked about earlier, individual reviewers specific to genres that you trust. And I remember, and I hate to keep going back to IGN, but it's like they're the biggest company in this day and age. So it's like it's hard not to keep referencing them. But I remember back in the day listening to Greg Miller, who now, runs Kinda Funny. And he was like the wrestling go-to guy at IGN. And I knew if there was a wrestling review and he was on it, I was like, cool, I can trust this. And then, you had Ryan McCaffrey with first person shooters and Xbox titles, and Colin Moriarty did a bunch of 2D games and PlayStation titles. And so like everybody kind of had their lane that they filled. And now when I go to IGN, I'm just like, okay, so this last game got a 7, the game before that got an 8, the game before that got a 6. But who are these people? And maybe that's on me for, once again, I don't do my due diligence of trying to seek out these different people and find what they enjoy and kind of build that understanding. But it's understanding what a individual person is best at reviewing and trying to get that review from that person, I think that is so valuable because Mundane, with JRPGs, Scott, whenever we were at Siege, would come to you about, okay, well, this JRPG, that JRPG. Like you have that real in-depth knowledge of that. And
Just
Loon.
buy them all. They're all great.
Not true. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest can go die in a dumpster fire.
But I guess that's totally off topic for the difficulty discussion. Well, I mean, not really. It's about trusting individual people, and then if the individual is honest with their audience, then it's like difficulty be damned. I don't give it. And I am kind of getting to a place where I, especially when there's so much content coming out, so many games coming out, dude, I will happily bump a game down to easy to be able to I got 3-4 games sitting there waiting for me to
That's what I've
play.
always said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I mean,
I play all these Souls games. They're the things that I usually do the difficulty crap in. Every other game, I'm bumping that shit down to like the easier, and it's just a coast. I'm just there for the story,
Right.
personally.
and like back to the trust thing, it's like it was the old adage is like you know, one aw shit cancels out a million attaboys. And it's true, right? Because it's like, it takes forever to build trust.
Hmm.
And you just keep building and building it and building it, but it takes only an instant. Like with Angry Joe, it took only one incident. Now
One poor
he's
decision.
forever.
Yep.
Now he is forever in question. That trust is gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like we got to find those people and reward them for good behavior.
Yeah.
Everyone's so worried about being punished for bad behavior. No one gets rewarded for good behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the just jumping back to difficulty for a second, because you made a really good point a second ago, Loon, talking about how you'll play the Souls games and it's like I know what this experience is going to be, but then
Mhm.
I'm going to go but you love that experience. Like you look for that in that experience because you love the gameplay.
I just accept it. I wouldn't say I look. It's not like I'm really jumping up and down. Can't wait to get my ass handed to me for like 3 hours with like a Melania boss fight. It's the thing that draws me to them games so much is not only especially when it's a FromSoft game, you're talking like the lore is so well built and the worlds and everything and the awe of exploration,
But
but just the level of combat and the way you can tackle it. It's why I didn't get on with Sekiro. Like you give me so many different ways of tackling things, and if something doesn't work, I'm able to pivot and try something else. And especially with Elden Ring, you don't even just get that; you get like with them going a completely open world map. You hit a wall of difficulty, just turn around and go the other way. Start chipping away at that way, and when you come back, like 5-6 hours later, you're like, wow, this guy ain't that easy, ain't that difficult, sorry, anymore, because you've leveled up and you've got new gear and new goodies and stuff like that.
Well, it's funny because I think to BioShock Infinite in that same exact example that you just said, where it's like the gameplay is so rewarding for how they crafted it, and talking about FromSoft, and for BioShock Infinite, I felt the same way, where it was like I I did, even though the last fight, be damned, that was really punishing to a ridiculous degree, but it was still like I kept it on the normal difficulty because I loved the gameplay loop so much and the challenge that they provided. I found because I had so many different ways. So I mean, you're just given so many tools in that game to tackle
Mhm.
these different, boss puzzles, I would say, or enemy encounter puzzles. And
Yep.
if I'm enjoying a game immensely on the normal difficulty, even if it is really damn challenging, I'm happy to keep it there because I'm enjoying it so much. It's only whenever I drop a difficulty down, it's almost not really an indication of the game whooping my ass most of the time. It's more just being like, I want to get through it quicker. Not
It's
really.
not worth the frustration. It's
Yeah.
hindering the enjoyment of the game. It's like you probably could do this for another hour and get through it, but it's like it's not going to give you anything doing that. So what's
Yeah,
the
that
harm in
that
bumping it down and just getting through and seeing that next story segment? That's more important.
that unexpected difficulty spike. Like if I'm playing like Super Mario Brothers 3, and then suddenly like I hit a Dark Souls level difficulty, and I'm just like, whoa, where did this come from? And that's gonna give a negative experience because it's like it if it's unexpected, you know, it's like eating candy, I guess. Like, you're sitting there and you're eating whatever, and you're popping jelly beans, and then suddenly you go from like normal jelly beans to like this super sour one. And it's like, oh man, if it's unexpected, then that's like, no, that's awful. Like, uh, God, what was the story? Like, someone hands you a cone of ice cream, and it's like it looks beautiful, and you bite into it, and it's the best mashed potatoes in the world that you've ever
God,
tasted. Your expectation was for ice
God.
cream, and you're
Right.
just going to be like, yuck, and like throw the thing down, no matter even if it was the best mashed potatoes in the world, right?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
expectations color the experience ahead of you.
Well, and that's a really good point because if you and tying it back to the review process, if you're playing a game, what's more valuable to y'all? If you're playing a game and you run into a difficulty spike and you keep at the same difficulty level, like you stay at normal. If you ran into the difficulty spike at normal and you power through it, it takes you a couple hours to power through it, and your review drops by a point because you were just like, man, it was so frustrating. Is that more valuable to you as a consumer, or is it more valuable to you if you ran into that difficulty spike, you dropped it down to easy, you powered through it in 10, 15 minutes, and then the review was still like glowing about the game? Like, what is more of a accurate representation of the product to y'all? I,
I'll let you take this because mine is going to be completely like it's gonna. I'm gonna answer the question, but it's going to be very different.
okay.
Um, I'm gonna. I keep fishing back to honesty. Like, I want to know how many hours they had to grind to try to get past this point. I want to know, like, what was their breaking point? Why did they drop it? Like, both answers are fine. Like, because it's like, me and you do not have the same gaming skills at all. So like, if you power through it and everything, you're like, yeah, this might be, if you can recognize that this might be difficult for like your everyday gamer, good. Flag it and say, hey, this is where we might have your average person. I tend to be good at these games. This is where your average person might see a little bit of a little difficulty spike. It took me a little, 2 or 3 extra tries to get through this point, and after that, like, I'm good. Or like, hey, I hit up against this wall. I tried for 4 hours. I decided that I needed to move on, so I dropped the difficulty and I moved on. Just again, just let people know. Like, I'm not expecting perfection out of reviewers. They are humans. They are not machines.
Just jump dashing is the bare minimum that we expect.
I mean,
I'm sorry, it's too easy.
like,
It's too easy.
apparently it wasn't too easy for him, at least.
I will say, and I'm not trying to, you're correct. I will say, if I was caught for all of my mistakes that I've made in games that were like laughably bad, I would be embarrassed if people could see some of the dumb shit I've did in games where it's
Really?
just, oh my God, dude.
Dude, I own up to that. I own up to that. Like, I'm sorry to quickly. I wanted to touch on it earlier when we was talking about Final Fantasy VII. Dude, I never played it in its first release, and it got a re-release on the Xbox One. I was like, oh, awesome! I'll finally get to experience it. And I got through like the first like 45-minute section, and then I just got stumped. I had no clue where to go. And I was like, what is going on? Like, where do you want me to go? And it's because of the background is so old and pixelated. I
yeah.
didn't know you could just walk on it. I didn't know I could just walk up this pipe, and I was sitting there because I was looking through people's like playthroughs, and I was like, I'm an
Oh man.
absolute dumbass. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
So I
you
went
kind of
in
you
and
kind of
out,
have to
in and
live in the
out.
moment.
And I was just like, do you know what? Yep, no. And no, that to me that's hilarious. That's a great story, and like I own up to them types of things. Like there's plenty of things I've done where it's just like you're just an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Just accept that. It's hilarious.
I guess I shouldn't say embarrassed in the sense of like, yeah, it's more funny than anything, but it can be a thing where it, I do think that certain things like the dash, there's things to just live on the
Oh
internet
no,
in
that's just
infamy.
crazy. That's crazy. I'm talking. My point was if you did something like on what I did, for instance, but you then overcome it, as it were. If you were doing a review, would you put that in as like a little laugh blooper kind of thing?
Right, right. I see what you're
Because I,
saying.
I, I, I would own up to that. I wouldn't try and
Yeah.
cover that up. That jump dash thing, I'm sorry, he shouldn't. Uh, you need another job, man. You cannot read basic instructions on, and that's crazy.
Well, hold on. Let me be. What is the jump dash thing? Is that that's from
It's for Cuphead.
Cuphead? Okay.
It was literally like the three cylinders or whatever, and it got, you could make the first one with a jump, and then the second one you needed to go on it and then dash jump, and it was just literally like two buttons.
And that was
It's,
in a preview or was that in the full review?
I believe it was when they had it at the showcase, somebody had like captured footage of them trying to do it,
Yeah.
and it just
See,
got obviously blown out of proportion. But like, wow, that was him trying to get footage for his review. Like,
I will say in a state where I've never played a game before, if I had to jump in and it's an E3 style event, I swear to God I could see myself doing something stupid like that. I really
I'd
honest to
love it.
God I
I'd
honest to
love
God
to see it.
I really could see, dude. I was playing Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, and
Mm.
they clearly have like yellow paint where you're supposed to climb on this thing. And I mean, I am a centimeter away from this, like looking at it, looking all
I
around.
feel you. I did the same thing. I think we're really crap at perception. That's what it is.
I'm horrible at traversing worlds and like and understanding navigation. And that game is like the most seamless navigation. It's so
So
unbelievably,
linear. Yeah.
yes, so
But so was
simple.
Final Fantasy VII, and that's what I mean. It's just something you can just sit back and laugh at. It's just like, wow, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
that is true. Okay, so I had one last question on this difficulty topic and then we'll move on. Do you think it's important to bring up difficulty in reviews? And where does that even fit in for a IGN style review where it's 7, 8 minutes? Like, is there even
Mm,
time to discuss difficulty in a such a short format like that?
if I'm being honest, I don't think so. And like I said, I don't think it really like unless it's a brutal difficulty spike like an Octopath and stuff like that with like that kind of thing. But just like being transparent, and if it got difficult, you drop it down. Obviously, you can't do that for like a Souls game and stuff, but that's the status quo at this point. Like no one's going to go into a Dark Souls and be like, "Wow, no one told me." Um, so yeah, I only see that like very deeply dove into when it's like somebody who wrote like a review on True Achievements, because these are people that are doing the 100%, so they will give insanely deep breakdowns on, every aspect of the game. And then obviously if it has difficulty related trophies and achievements, they will be like, look, these are the parts you need to look out for. And they will give you pointers and tips and stuff like that on how you could probably best conquer that portion of the
Yeah.
game.
Guys.
Yeah. They got you working, Monday?
Of course they do. Every day that ends in Y.
No, see, but like I find difficulty discussions incredibly valuable, especially if you know your reviewer and you kind of know what their difficulty tolerance is. And so like for me, if I bump a game down to easy and I say that in a review, I always like to tell people that just so they can kind of be aware of if they kind of align with me in liking similar games. They're like, oh, well, if that was difficult to him, it might be difficult to me. And I
Mm.
love that whenever, but once again, that's more in a podcast style setting. That's more in these deep dives. I don't know really if there's even a place for that in the short form reviews. Mundane, how do you feel about that? Do you think that is difficulty just is it important to bring up in a review? And how can you
Um,
even go ahead?
I mean, if it's a feature, yes. Like if it's like Dark Souls, like that is part of the selling point. Um, again, like yeah, you gotta have that honesty. You gotta like if people are bumping it down, let people know. Like, hey, this is a really difficult game, and I bumped it down to easy because I needed to get through it for this review and stuff. And
Mhm.
like, I mean, let us know total number of hours played. Let us know how many hours does it take to actually finish the game. Look, like I mean, give us a stat rundown. I mean, we do stat rundowns of both versions of football, not only just the American version of football, but the world's version of football and stuff. You're watching. I mean, just give us the stats. Like, give us statistics of like how long this took and how long that took, and like hey, I was doing this, or I wasn't very accurate with this, or like just let us know. Like, shoot, I would love for us to even get something as down to the nitty gritty to the point of like, oh, I'm playing this fighting game and I'm playing it on pad as opposed to playing it on stick.
Yeah.
Like, give us everything.
Mm.
We might not consume all of it, but at least make it available to us.
Yeah. Hours played is crucial because I didn't even think about that. That is to me, I'm about to be 30. I'm getting older. It's like, dude, the
Youngin.
older the older I get though, the more where you say a game is 60 hours, I go, it better be a damn good game.
You
Like
sigh.
really, dude. I mean, I just wrapped up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and man, I blazed through that main story. It took me 40 hours. It's
Jesus
like
Christ.
that's a big boy. That is a big, big boy, and I, it's a great game.
I was about to
Enjoyed
say,
it.
is it thumbs up or thumbs down for you?
Oh, it's so cool. It's so 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 cool. But
Oh my god.
I
but
expected as much.
at the same time, like, and it deserves its 40 hours, undeniably. But at the same time, it's like, whew, after you finish it, you go, okay, back to
So,
reality.
so like you would absolutely die in old games like
I can't do it.
Xenogears or Final Fantasy Tactics, where it's like, oh yeah, yeah, you can spend about 120 hours in this game, and you're just like, what? It's like, yeah, yeah, and that's just one playthrough and stuff. Like I have multiple
I mean,
playthroughs
you have
on
2,000 hours in
Tactics.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm also on like my
I'm
15th
with you.
character, right?
No,
So,
I'm with you. Like the CRPGs are the things that I dump shitloads of time into, like Pillars and Divinity and stuff.
oh, Divinity.
Spent
See, or
way too much time in them games,
yeah,
Yeah.
mm,
It,
but keep them coming.
for me, like Rockstar, CDPR, um, dot. I think I'm out. There's no other
Square.
devs.
BioWare, come on, how are you
BioWare,
forgetting
yeah.
some BioWare RPGs?
They're,
You know,
they're, they're
you'd
to
do
the
a
point.
sick. Really?
Yeah,
Dragon
absolutely.
Age Inquisition to the point? Are you out
Okay,
of your mind?
my bad. Inquisition, not so much. But if you look like
Ooh,
all through Mass Effect 1, you can finish in
Yeah, Mass Effect 1 to 3 are them weird RPGs where I don't know why they didn't take off more. They wouldn't go above like 20 hours, really.
so nice and infinitely replayable, man.
Mhm.
God, it was good. Good days. But no, you Monday, that is a fantastic point about hours being that should be a absolute every single review, in my
They should
opinion.
be at
You
the top, at the very beginning, as the opening things. Like this is how long the review took.
Monday,
There
I
you go,
really like
slap bang.
I like that idea of having a stat log at the beginning of every review, like having total hours played, difficulty played, just like a quick kind of recap right there at the
Controllers
beginning.
thrown against the wall and
And they
smashed into a billion pieces.
they don't even need to say anything on it. It could just be literally a card that pops up that you just filled
Right
out
next to
so
the
that you can
overall review Metacritic number.
yeah,
and stuff.
and you
Yeah.
can pause it and you can just consume that. And it would take hardly any time at all to do that.
That's a fantastic point. That is
There we
a
go. We've solved reviews, guys. We're here. We solve all the problems. My goodness.
We're not getting paid. Wait a minute.
oh Jesus.
No, then we
There
become
goes our
biased.
integrity.
No, we lose our integrity. No trips to
Oh.
Vegas.
Well,
No trips to Vegas.
Loon, I want to hit you with this last one right here because this was one that you brought up that I thought was really good. Going back to these big review outlets, should big review sites should they review a game for every platform? So, nowadays we're talking PS5, Series X, PC. Should review sites, these big outlets, of course, you're not expecting Skill Up or individual ACG you can't do that. But should big review sites, and I'll kick it to you since you were the one that brought this up, Loon. How do you feel about this?
I mean, in a perfect world, is where that thought, spun from, because it is a fairly unrealistic thing. But the thing that made me think of it was the fact that people who covered Jedi Fallen Order's review, they did it on a PS5. It ran the best on a PS5 out of every available platform it launched on. I couldn't play it day one. I've literally only just finished it. Like, what was it, last week? After all the patches, I couldn't play it. It was unplayable on Series X for me. The performance issues were so bad. So for that's the thing of where, if I was to go into that review and they're like, oh, this is a great game, 8 out of 10 or whatever, and they didn't tell me about any of them performance issues, I buy that game. I'm then being punished because, and this is why I think it would be a really good improvement if even they did, say, the PS5 review, but then dipped in for a few hours on other systems just to see how the performance is affected. Because you can kind of get a consensus very early on within the first 1 hour, 2 hours, how well the game is going to be running.
And the publishers can help with that with cross save.
Exactly.
Like if they would, they don't have to do it for everybody, and they don't even have to make it like publicly available. But if they could just set up cross save for reviewers, where it's like, no, we're like, we know that you have to like touch on PC and PlayStation and Switch and Xbox and stuff, and like we're gonna enable cross save between all of them with our own private server, even though we're not going to involve Sony or anything because it's part of our advertisement budget for this game. And that's the thing, is like it needs like all of these companies, they're spending money on their advertisement budgets for like commercials and all this other stuff, and they've forgotten that reviews are part of their advertisement.
Well, you think of how much that Payday 3 thing must have cost. It wasn't just one guy they flew out there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
5, 6, 7 people that you're flying out. You're paying for their accommodation, food, everything, hiring that place out, filling it with all these things. Like, that's insane how much that must have come to.
I feel like we need more platform specific coverage in general. Like but platform specific coverage that's not this
bias.
Oh my God, dude. It is crazy how Xbox, fans will cover Xbox, how PlayStation fans will cover PlayStation. And like it is, I can't really fathom how adult human beings are so consumed by this console war.
Fanaticism. It really, because the thing that makes me laugh, and it just shows 100%. Sea of Thieves has topped the PlayStation pre-order lists, and when that game was coming out on Xbox, it was getting flamed by PlayStation fans. People were laughing at it. Who the hell is going to want to waste their time on this and everything, and that constantly being spun around. And then now it's available on PlayStation. It's above Dragon's Dogma 2 in pre-orders, like stuff like this. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
It's just the
And it,
vocal minority.
yeah, and they own the internet, unfortunately.
I don't care about people like just random, Twitter X guy. I could give a shit less about their
Yep.
opinion,
But
but
even the main people of these review outlets that are platform specific have a really heavy bias
yes,
on
Wait.
stuff.
Is it a true bias, or is it fake to placate their arena of
I have no
listeners?
idea. I have no idea.
yeah, it's not a true bias. There's no way. I mean, dude, you can't be an Xbox fan and look at God of War and go that mid average. You can't be a PlayStation fan and look at Hellblade 2 and be like, yeah, it doesn't look impressive at all. Like it's just you're totally fooling yourself if you. And I don't know. I'm not like a sports guy. Well, I love sports, but like I don't have teams really. We're from Alabama, all we have college football, but we don't have pro
Yeah.
teams or anything. So like, who the hell are we going to root for in the pros? Like that doesn't really bleed into me. I like the Saints, I like the Pelicans, but like that's because I can go 2 hours up the road and watch a game. But I'm not like a diehard. I bleed Pelican blood. Like what the hell? So it's like I don't have that allegiance, that fandom, that fanatic nature, and it just seeing it is crazy to me. And the fact that like I don't think there should be these accounts that are okay. Let me backtrack. I want there to be these accounts. I want there to be these accounts that are Xbox, PlayStation specific, that are not funded by PlayStation, that are not funded by Xbox, but they cover that as their primary platform. I loved Ryan McCaffrey's coverage back in the day, and it was that platform specifically. And regardless, so Mundane, how do you feel about platform specific coverage? Do you think it's feasible at all for these big companies?
Um, if they drop the negativity about bashing on other people, yeah, no problem. Like, just it was like I view it like what back in the day when I was like asking girls on dates and stuff. The girls either going to say yes or no, and anything beyond that was a reflection of who they were as a person, and it was not, any meaning on me whatsoever. So like, that's the way I view these reviewers that are like, yeah, I'm mainly a PlayStation reviewer and everything, and then Sea of Thieves up, yuck, yuck, that kind of thing. It's like, well, that just kind of lowers my opinion of you overall,
Mm.
because like you're wasting all of this time being negative. Of course, we're kind of wasting a bunch of time being negative too.
But we solved the review problem.
But we're trying to we're looking for a solution. We're examining why it's broken, and we're trying to find the solution.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, like we have to, like, I think there is a need for it. There's always going to be the only PlayStation people, and for whatever reason, it might be because they can't afford to buy both systems and stuff, and so they want to feel justified in their purchase. They want to be reinforced and stuff, and so there's always going to be someone out there to help that and do that for them. But like, yeah, it is needed. Someone who's reviewing only Xbox games all the time. Am I going to go and like listen to them review the Spider-Man 3 game that's only on PlayStation? Probably
Right.
not.
Right.
Just because I'm just probably not going to listen to them. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, there is a place for it, because no one person can do all of this at all. It's impossible, an absolutely impossible task.
Is Digital Foundry the closest thing we have to that? Where they try their best to like examine multiple platforms? Is
Is
there
is
really
that is that the guys that do the like performance breakdowns of like everything side by side, like the PS5 version,
yeah,
Xbox Series? Yeah, no, that has to be it.
I think
But
that's
even
really
then, they're
it.
not reviewed. They're not technically.
They're
That's just performance based.
they're the closest thing to what we're looking for in that regard.
That
Drop some reviews, guys.
Well, that's another good shout out. Those guys are another good shout out. I never know what the hell they're talking about ever, but I always listen. Like I'll turn on Digital Foundry and I listen to that podcast a good bit. To be as absolutely dense as I am on a technical level and to watch them as frequently as I really have no idea why I tune in as often. No shade at them and shade at me. I'm a fucking moron, but I really enjoy their podcast that they have going on, and they're another good one in terms of it's different, not talking about reviews, but in terms of games coverage, they seem to be
Yep.
pretty unbiased and
Yep.
decent across the board.
Absolutely.
Well, fellas, I've monopolized enough of your time here today. I appreciate y'all for joining me for this review discussion, state of reviews in 2024. Mondane, any parting words for the people? Any plugs you want to give? Anything like that?
I got nominated for YouTuber of the Month
Oh, yeah,
for this
yep.
month, and I'm not asking for people's votes. I'm asking that people go vote, and I'm so bad. I'm actually blanking on the person. Azure Tony is the person who nominated me. If you go look up YouTuber of the Month, you'll see a bunch of different channels because it keeps the torch gets passed on to every year to a new person. And I'll try to find that link for you to
Yeah,
let
put
you
it
have
in.
it, Brandon. Yeah.
Okay,
and we
yeah.
can
We'll
have that
manipulate the
video up
vote.
there. No. We're trying integrity, sir. Integrity. Like I want people to vote. They don't have to vote for me. They can go look at my catalog. They can go look at all the other people that are nominated and vote honestly. Yeah.
Right.
Like I mean, if I'm making mistakes, let me know. That's the only way I'm going to be able to figure it out.
Don't tell me about my damn mistakes. Keep your
You're perfect, Brandon. You're perfect. I promise.
no.
Help me through Final Fantasy VII, please.
No, I appreciate you joining, dude. It's always a blast talking to you. Loon, any plugs you want to get out the way? Any?
Well, we've got me and Mandane will be doing something Cyberpunk related on Friday, which will be exciting. So keep an eye on that. And obviously, you know, we don't have a schedule for the podcast. It drops whenever it drops, but we've been hitting a roughly like every 1 to 2 week schedule. You know, you were shocked. It was like, you know, we didn't realize we'd done 6 of them already.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. That's always a
Output is
blast.
crazy.
It is always a blast, man. Chatting the vidges with you. Definitely gonna have you fellas back on. So I wanted to join for the Cyberpunk thing, but I'm swamped, dude. I'm damn. As soon as I finish Final Fantasy, wrestling comes out, WWE 2K24. I'm diving into that, trying to
And then
stone
you got
cold.
Rise of the Ronin, which is the next big one that you're going to be tackling. So I don't think you're doing Dragon's Dogma, are you?
I want to, man.
Just yet.
I want
But that's
to.
what
But
we said we'd probably do on the podcast. Obviously, I got Dragon's Dogma pre-ordered, so we can
yeah,
kind of pit them against each other and see which one, you know, lands better.
yeah, for sure. It's a lot of vidges coming out, which no complaints on my end. But fellas, we'll have to relink back up sometime soon and then find something else to bitch about. Maybe find something else to be positive about. We'll see. But appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
And appreciate you good people. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts about the video. Subscribe to their channels. Check them out. And I will see you on the other side. Goodbye.